Hi, my name is Christopher Porter Blake. I am a trustee member of Neurodiversity in Law. This guide will hopefully give you all the confidence in higher education and potentially help you disclose that you may be neurodivergent to your lecturers as well. That's something that I found incredibly beneficial during my time in higher education. Was I meet my lecturers before the term starts. I let them know what struggle I may have, what I find beneficial, and my learning style, because all of us are very uniquely different in that aspect. Some of the tools I use will be included in here. Some quick videos by the companies themselves. They are primarily Grammarly. I use Grammarly AI quite a lot as well to help me plan assignments, which I find really helpful. I also use a tool called Scholarcy, which helps me reduce the amount of reading that I need to do. So that's a very, very helpful tool, particularly in a law degree or anyone that's sitting the bar course. So it helps you digest books in a much more easy manner. This presentation also contains a chat with my employment law lecturer, Martin Walsh. Fantastic guy. Really enjoyed his lecture style and his seminar style. Very interactive, really interesting. So he's got some comments on how that went for him and how that went for me. And a short video by Craig Smith, who is an AI expert and also works in crim and punishment at Salford University. Again, another fantastic lecturer who I've worked alongside in my higher education. I chose him because he's very personable, as I'm sure that comes across in the video for you all as well. Thank you. So let's talk about Grammarly. I absolutely love Grammarly. I think it's one of the most useful tools for any neurodivergent and even non-neurodivergent individuals. And the next slide will show you as to why. So Grammarly has been updated to include an AI package as well. And the reason why I love this is I'm terrible at planning assignments and essays and pretty much anything in life. Thank you, ADHD. So what I can do is give the question from my assignment sheet and brief to the Grammarly AI and ask it to plan me an assignment. I can say, plan me this, plan me that, shorten this, improve it, make it sound more academic, and it'll do that for me. Now, a lot of people may say that's an inappropriate use of AI. No, it isn't. AI is a tool to be used by individuals who may struggle to write or who may struggle and get stuck sometimes. It's completely appropriate to use. It isn't plagiarism. It's still your own work because you need to edit it and change it and effectively make it your own. This isn't a tool to be relied upon, but it's a tool to use to help you advance your writing skills. It's not going to change the way you think, but it'll certainly change the way you appear on paper.
One download, you get the power of generative AI in every text box across the web. At the click of a button, you can draft an instant response or rewrite text to be clear and ready to send. Grammarly Go makes it easy to write better and faster, right where you're working. It's personalized to you. Grammarly Go is built to understand your style, voice, and intent, so your writing doesn't sound like a robot, it sounds like you. You set your writing voice and provide direction, and you get custom-made text generation. You're in control, and Grammarly Go helps you be the best version of yourself. Grammarly Go has hundreds of suggested prompts that guide you to effective, high-quality output. It detects your unique context and offers the most relevant suggested prompts to you, a button click away. With Grammarly Go, you get personalized, relevant generative AI where you write, with enterprise-grade security and data privacy controls that you can trust. Download Grammarly Go today. You'll be amazed at what you can do.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite tips for students, Scholarcy. What a fantastic tool. You can basically give it a book or a PDF or a journal, and it'll literally condense it down to flashcards for you, which is so usable. This can also be used for anything, so you can put cases in there if you're in practice, you can drop them in as long as it's PDF, and it will shortlist everything for you, so you can flick through documents so quickly, get the information you need, and not overload your brain. It's one of my favorite tools. Following this slide is a presentation by Scholarcy themselves on how to use a tool.
So, what is Scholarcy? Well, I'm sure you've guessed by now. Scholarcy converts your long texts into interactive summary flashcards. This makes reading, understanding, and applying knowledge from research papers, book chapters, and other documents a breeze. You can build up a library of flashcards over time to easily access important texts, especially that one about pirates, global warming, and causality. Surely that will come in handy someday. You can import documents in a wide range of formats, whether that be straight from your device, cloud storage, or by creating your own feeds to pull papers straight into your library. Scholarcy's flashcards give you a compact, easy-to-read overview of the text, perfect for skim reading or getting to the key points of an article before reading it in full. Each flashcard gives you a headline summary, an easy-to-read synopsis, a set of facts and findings from the text, and a structured summary that you can use to enhance your reading requirements. Interactive highlights take you to important points in the full text. You can expand your research by clicking on direct links to cited sources, or searching across millions of open access articles from within Scholarcy. The Scholarcy flashcard also makes it easier for you to explore a paper your way. For instance, jump straight to the results or check out the study participants first. From there, you can dive deeper into the paper without having to troll through it. Scholarcy pulls out information on study limitations, how the study compares to other research, as well as extracts figures and tables. Scholarcy Findings lets you read a summary of related articles without leaving the app. You can easily add notes to your flashcards. These notes are searchable within Scholarcy. Export individual flashcards or a collection of flashcards to Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and more to use for your writing or to share with others. You can even export your flashcards as a fully formatted bibliography in Word. Organize and sort your flashcards into libraries and folders. Easily search your libraries, folders, and notes you've taken, and favorite your most important flashcards. Finally, you can customize your summaries to see exactly what you want. And that's the end of the Quick Start Guide. If you'd like to learn more about what Scholarcy can do, feel free to explore the rest of this guide for specific step-by-step walkthroughs.
Hello everyone, my name is Craig Smith and I am a law lecturer at the University of Salford. My specialisms are legal technology, which includes artificial intelligence, and around criminal law, particularly around the criminal justice system. So all the other kind of areas around criminal law, including police, prison service, etc. I've been asked by Chris to talk a little bit about working with neurodiverse individuals, students, people, and I just want to explain a little bit about my history, I suppose, with working with neurodiversity, in that I am familiar with some of the both positive and perhaps challenges that come along with neurodiversity. I have friends and colleagues and family members that are recognised, or at least recognise and identify as neurodiverse. For me, the key thing that I really enjoy with working with students who are neurodiverse is around my empathy with them. It really helps me understand the kind of journey that a person or a student goes through, and that journey is very different for each individual. It's not always the same. So just because I am informed or understand that the student or individual has a particular diagnosis or is perhaps kind of identifying in that way, then doesn't mean that I expect them to behave or act in the same way that another student would with the same diagnosis. So it's really powerful for me to understand their kind of journey and have that kind of shared experience with them, because I get to experience at least their lectures and seminars that I deliver with them in a way that's very different and gives me a different perspective. And that is exactly what Chris has allowed me to kind of experience, having his analysis and his kind of unique perspective on how he tackles some of the work and some of the areas I kind of get to work in is amazing. For me, it's been really good to kind of understand that the focus that individuals have who are neurodiverse is really next level, and to work with these individuals who kind of get to offer such a different angle or a different kind of way of approaching something is really useful for both them to understand and recognize that this is great, this is something different, this is okay. It's more than okay, it's good, it's very good, but I think really sometimes it's about enabling individuals to do that. There is definitely times that it becomes challenging, and I think that can sometimes be staying on task and focusing, and we all have that regardless of kind of who we are, but every human I think has a period where it's quite difficult to stay on task. And again, I think it's about ensuring that we really tackle how we do that, how we stay in a way that is using some behaviors or cues or kind of mechanisms to really stay on task and focus. And, Chris and I have had that before where he's really good at asking questions and being like, explain that in a different way. I don't really know what you mean. And I'm like, yeah, of course. Let me run through that again. What about this way? And sometimes I think we've gone off topic so far now that we need to bring it back. And so we're going to stop, but we're going to move on. And actually, Chris is really good at taking that and going, yeah, I get why. It's not a me problem, it's not a you problem, it's not a class problem, it's because we need to get back to the kind of topic at hand. And I think that's really, really positive. Again, an example of that I think is in seminars, but also around kind of assessment. Sometimes explaining an assessment brief or explaining an assessment task in maybe 5 minutes is sufficient for some people, but actually it's also about really getting to understand it. And what I think neurodiversity or neurodiverse students do is they really want to get it in a way that it means it's important to them. And so it's not a bad thing when someone says, a student particularly says to me, can you do that again, or can you explain it one more time, or how about this thing, and why do we have to do it that way, why do we do A, B, C and not X, Y, Z? And you're like, this is because you're keen and you want to understand it. This is not because I've done a poor job at explaining it, at least I hope. So it's a good way for us to revisit it in that unique perspective to make sure that it happens. And I think for me, it's a privilege to work with anybody who identifies as neurodiverse. It really allows me, on quite a selfish level, to have a level of personal growth and to reflect as a practitioner and reflect as a teacher and lecturer about how best to deliver the content that I want people to understand and get the most out of. So, for me, it's great. I hope it's a great experience for my students as well. And more to the future. Here we go.
Start up. Recorded. Hi, Martin. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm Martin Walsh. I'm part of the law team at the University of Salford. My specialism is employment law, and I taught Chris last semester in his employment law module. I've been a lecturer for many, many, many decades, and I guess unknowingly, I've probably taught a lot of neurodiverse students. One of the key things is that Chris actually communicated to me that he was in that particular space. It probably wouldn't have made a huge amount of difference, but that there were moments when Chris really pressed with questions and was looking for answers, which actually was great. It helped the group. On the other hand, I realised that Chris's reading and capability was beyond most of the other members of the group. So what I tried to do was to address Chris's question and at the same time make it intelligible to everybody in the group. I don't know how successful I was with that, but looking at the marks that the group got, they seem to do very well. Okay.
I mean, certainly I found that the teaching style you had was very neurodiverse friendly, and that I feel like my disclosing that to you enabled you to not necessarily adapt the way you teach, but adapt the way you dealt with me as a student. So, as you said, the questions I had was very in-depth and very, logically based, and obviously that is at a higher level, as you mentioned. But I was able to obtain the answers I needed in a way where the rest of the group didn't feel left out. Because what I tend to find within the group itself, and you may have noticed this, is that I'm kind of a little bit further ahead than them, and I'm kind of sat there sometimes a little bit frustrated, which is why the questions come. But how did you find managing that? Because I know that you kind of saw my frustration sometimes, sat there at the back, huffing and puffing. How did you manage that in terms of the overall class experience?
Well, the good news is that you actually did sit at the back in most classes, and therefore what you were going through was not really communicated to the group particularly. And I also think the group as a group, had a great deal of patience with you. They were, to a large extent, pleased that you were asking those probing questions, which need to be answered. You know, with final year degree, you're about to leave to go into a job, most of you, and employment law is, I would argue, the most valuable subject for you in terms of equipping you to cope in the workplace. So I felt that this particular group accepted the premise on which I was trying to deliver the lectures and seminars, which was preparing people for work. It was not an overly academic approach. I tried to make it as practical as possible. So when you were asking the questions, I think everybody benefited. I suspect that the frustration was more on your part, that you probably would have wanted to ask more questions, but restrained from yourself from asking more and more questions, because obviously if there's a lecture going on a particular topic, the material has to be got through. So I think you yourself were very observant of the constraints I was working towards. But there is nothing worse than having a group that does not engage, just sits there looking at you.
Yeah, I mean, one of the key benefits I found was that because I disclosed so early on in the course that I am neurodiverse, I found that incredibly beneficial, and I certainly recommend students to do that.
Yeah.
In terms of me approaching you, to find questions that were outside of the room and outside of the scope of the lecture or seminar, I felt incredibly comfortable asking you directly, say, Martin, do you have 5 minutes that we can go through something? Yeah. Can we have something? Can we chat about that? I know that during our assignments we had doing, I asked several questions that were pertinent to my essay, but not necessarily pertinent to anybody else's. And I found that the way that we communicated together separately away from the group was more neurodiverse friendly. It was, yeah, here's practical answers, here's what you're looking for, here's how it conveys. So what would your advice be to students that are a little bit anxious about disclosing the fact of neurodiverse, and how could they perhaps overcome that with a new lecturer? So imagine I've met you for the first time, I come to you and go, hi Martin, I'm neurodiverse. That can sometimes be anxious, it can be anxiety provoking. How would you kind of say to a student, don't worry about it, we can cope with that and then move forward? What would your take on that be?
I think students have to disclose the nature of the disabilities that they've got. Indeed, if we count this as a disability, because certainly from your point of view as a student and other students that I've taught in this territory in the past, it's actually beneficial because you keep digging until you get the answers. So this is not a disability to the extent that it restricts you. So I think people need to speak up. They need to talk to the individual lecturers. And actually, I will raise this in the next law team meeting under any other business. I'll make certain that Emma Roberts, the head of law, knows that I'm going to raise it. And it's really just from the point of view of putting everybody on notice that we've had this conversation. The word will go out to the student population that the advice with any disability, actually, any problem, is to come forward. It's not just about neurodiversity, it's anything. To talk to the programme leaders, talk to the individual lecturers and work out a programme. I think most of us in the law team, we accommodate the fact that people are off ill for various amounts of time, which is a far worse problem than being neurodiverse. And we make the time to enable people to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, the one big thing I've noticed is I struggle with assignment if it's worded sometimes a bit vague, is that actually clarifying that with the lecturer is always helpful, particularly the programme lead. Say, look, I'm struggling with the wording of this. Can you just give me a little bit more that I need from there? And I've always found the one-to-ones are always a fantastic space to do that. And having a confidence to know that your lecturers are not going to treat you any differently in terms of in the classroom.
No.
But outside of the classroom, knowing that support is always there as well, because it's so important to understand that outside of that room, you have all the support behind you if you need it. And my advice to students moving forward is, although it may be a little bit anxiety provoking and it may feel a bit nervous, The lecturers at the end of the day are there to help you through your degree, get you the best qualification you can get, and help you in the future as well. Moving forward in the future, they're always there to go, hi, I need a reference, or I need something in the future. And I always think building those relationships at an early stage are always advantageous, because it helps you out not only during your studies, but also during the future as well.
I find this particular law team now as caring a law team as I've actually lectured in and been a team member with. There are a number of members of staff within the team who are neurodiverse themselves, who don't carry a great big banner saying, we've got to do X, Y, and Z, but gently and persuasively, they make the position known that different students require different approaches.
Yeah, certainly. That's something I have noticed recently. It really is starting to become a little bit more out there, and lecturers are now starting to tweak things a little bit more, which is really reflected on not only the grades for everyone, because I always say that if you teach in a neurodiverse friendly way, everybody benefits, because it is such a unique way of teaching and very approachable. And I've always found that every student benefits. So, the neurodiverse way is probably the way forward for everyone, I think, personally.
I think you're right there, Chris, actually. Without being able to pin it down to particular meetings as a specific topic, the underlying sense of the meetings that I go to and what we discuss is student support. We've been addressed by SPAs, SPAs and APTs. They've sat in a whole day's meeting. They've told us their role. They've explained how they can support students with representations that either members of staff or students make. It's a very positive environment.
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot since I joined in 2020. I've noticed the last 2 years have really kind of ramped up support. There's more support there now and then, but we now have an academic support worker at university for all students, not just neurodiverse students, and they're really, really beneficial as well. So I've noticed a big change at Salford. I'm hoping that's other universities as well, other universities around the country follow suit, and that we lead towards a better neurodiversity friendly education system effectively. And lecturers like yourself, Martin, are a delight to study under.
Well, thank you very much. Just to repeat the advice though, if a student is feeling anxious, somehow we need to create a mechanism that they feel sufficiently emboldened to go forward and to state the case. I'm even wondering whether a way forward might be to appoint a member of the law team whose specific role it is to look after people with neurodiverse issues and indeed related issues.